Hello and welcome to Push Your Glasses Up. I'm Mikey. Today we're going over Jurassic World Dominion with returning guest Ryan Wilson from the previous episode. We'll be discussing the good, the bad, the ugly, what have you with this movie, how it stacks up against the rest of the franchise, all that good stuff. But before we do that, if you enjoy these podcasts, these videos, all the trailer reactions, stuff like that, please like the videos on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast feed on your local RSS feed, wherever you get podcasts, so you can drive around and listen to us there. I don't know what this is. But for now, let's jump into Jurassic World Dominion. Welcome back, Ryan.
Hi.
Hi. So we both saw the new dinosaur movie.
Indeed.
And
Not hours ago for me.
yeah, mine was Thursday. You were telling me before we started recording that you did not end up doing IMAX. Turns out neither did I. I thought I had IMAX tickets. I had Dolby tickets, which is typically my preferred format anyway. But I think I scheduled it so that I could watch the Xbox presentation today. Or not the Xbox presentation today. The Summer Games Fest presentation on Thursday. Right. I am coming out of the Xbox thing today. But I literally finished watching that, hopped in the car, drove for an hour. There was an accident on the highway. I was like, oh God, no. Oh God, no. But yeah, so I think there will be a little bit of, even though this movie wasn't filmed in IMAX, there were some stuff that was in 65 millimeter, but not the full 70 millimeter IMAX. So there might be some stuff that would have been even a little bit better to look at. But yeah, so what did you think we'll start with the old spoiler free so I can timestamp it for people if they want to skip it or whatever.
I mean, I was pretty disappointed, to be honest with you. Mostly like my generic answer is like it wasn't even that fun. And like even the campier, like even like Jurassic Park 3 and like Fallen Kingdom, like there are parts where you're like, I was just like, it was too much. It was a little too much camp, like a little too much callbacks, too many callbacks. Like everyone, like I don't know. It just like the woman behind me, like literally like laughed out loud and not in a good way a couple times, like
right,
which like hurts. And
it's probably a you got to be with the right crowd movie.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think I'm excited for my niece and nephew to see it. They'll probably love it. Like from what I've heard from my friends I've talked to who have like kids or like nieces or little whatever it is, like children in their lives, like one of the podcasts I listened to, like this guy took his son and he was I think 11 and he loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great, that's what these movies are for. Like it's gonna make $1 billion. Like I definitely need 10 to 15 years off of if they ever want to do anything else
like
with this franchise.
Like we did before this franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm disappointed because my expectations are always with this franchise because we were just talking about in the other episode. It's not going to be the first movie, and if it at least holds my attention and I have like a couple moments where I'm like, hey, that was fun, then I'm like, hey, worth it. It's not a tremendous movie. I think it's a more cohesive story than the previous movie, but it's still like it's a little too convoluted. There's stuff that isn't necessary in there. There's
too many characters.
Yeah, and they're trying to go for an Avengers thing, which is fine. But it's not quite. It never reaches that culmination moment. And the other thing that goes on in this movie is there are some moments where it's just like, wait, how did that character get there so quick?
Yeah,
and it's just a
lot of fast travel.
Yeah.
a lot
like
of
the character this I won't like spoil stuff here yet, but like there's a character who is in one scene that is like the HQ office, and then literally the next shot he walks in and it's when the other group is in another place, like supposedly miles away. So it's just like those things are a little bit messy. But I think the highs in like Fallen Kingdom are mostly just the end, whereas here I think there are like very quick spikes of good stuff,
yeah.
but
There
it's
were
not like an
scenes where I
extended
was like,
sequence.
there are scenes that we'll talk about once we're doing spoilers that I was like, ooh, like I'm definitely gonna mention this scene to Mikey.
Yeah,
I was literally like, and honestly, like I think we lost the fight for this franchise when we were like, we gotta like I think it was like Jurassic Park 3 when it was like we're gonna find an even bigger dinosaur, and then it just kind of like and they
yeah.
don't stop doing that.
And
I
then
was
they
like
made
kind
the
of hoping.
commentary, but then they went back on that commentary and did it
I
again.
know the whole time I was like, oh my god, in Jurassic World you talked about this,
Yeah,
and then now you're
you know
doing
that
it.
this is a problem. I
Yeah,
mean, I do like the design of the Gigantic, like it's I can't even do I can't do the correct pronunciation because uh there's another dinosaur that is Gigantosaurus or something. It's like
yeah,
there's
it's a sauropod, yeah.
yeah. So
And like how it's just I think I just feel like the people who I'm gonna say produced or maybe it's Colin Trevorrow, but like the idea of like I touched on this like last week, but like all I need is rappers doing scary shit and
that
like
sequence was great. Yep,
yeah. Oh, like, and I was like, this looks like in the trailer, I was like, this looks campy, and then I was like, ah, this is like one of the best parts of
it's
this
the
movie.
cool part.
Like,
Yeah,
it's like yeah, it's like the last like Bond movie, but with rappers. It's
exactly.
like, I sign me up, I'm
I
in.
said that in my trailer reaction to the
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
that. Yeah,
But like my other big critique is like people die in these movies, and like I felt like not enough people, like random people, like die, but like not enough like character. There wasn't like any weight. There was no
yeah.
weight. Like I was like everyone's gonna walk out of this.
That's
And then
also,
also,
but
I mean, I'll
that
save this for spoilers actually, but
yeah, but just that last point, I will say that like even in the first movie, it kind of has that. Like you
yeah,
feel like the people that you don't want to die could die, but they don't. Like the
yeah.
only the people that you really are like, okay,
But
I
like
want you to die. But then like
even the bit
Sam
players,
Jackson is also like falls prey
yeah,
to the they kill off the black guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's like the Sam Jackson of this movie like doesn't die. Like the Muldoon of this movie like doesn't like the bit characters who you're like,
The
ooh,
people who you
this is someone
expect.
who is ripe for
Yeah.
getting killed in some kind of jump scary like or whatever it is. Like they all just like the the we'll get into it a little later,
You know
but
what?
like
No, no, no. Now,
I was just
I
like,
think
come
we've
on, man,
talked
like
about it
nine,
enough.
like 12 people aren't gonna walk out of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, please.
we've danced around it enough, I think, to give our general idea of like on Letterboxd I gave it 3 stars because I think it is a perfectly whatever fine movie. Um it's I like I
I
wouldn't I'm not gonna go back and see it in the theater again, but I'm perfectly
yeah,
fine watching it on like a lot of the movies in this franchise, watching it on a Saturday afternoon on cable. Like it's
I I'm gonna go out and say that I think it's probably the worst one in the franchise.
I
It's
definitely cannot
close,
go that far.
but I like
Because
I'll rewatch.
visually it's still so much better than Jurassic Park 3. Jurassic Park
Oh
3
yeah, I mean
looks
like
like a made for
no,
TV
it looks
movie.
great. It looks good, but I don't know. Like I like I'm gonna watch it again. I'm not gonna see it in theaters again, but like I'll
Yeah,
watch it again and I'll like it's just like every time I watch Star Wars, I'll re-rank and then
right.
whatever. But like it
Don't
this
get me
is the
wrong.
most
I'm not telling you why you should re-rank it. I'm just
no.
saying why I can't go that
Yeah.
far with it. That's
I just feel like well I it took a lot for me to walk out of that movie theater and be disappointed in a movie
right.
where like a week ago I was like I will pay $20 to watch dinosaurs do stuff, and I like, do I regret paying whatever the $15? No, but like, was I like, God damn it at the end? Like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. For me on that, like it disappointed is generally the correct term, but I still
kind of
enjoyed
tempered
my time
expectations.
with it. Like
Yeah,
it's a weird balance of like my expectations are never that high for this franchise anymore, so I can't be disappointed, but it's still not like I would prefer it to be a better movie, so I'm disappointed that way. But like
yeah.
it's one of those
You
things where
you were
it's a
right in
weird balance.
saying like you saying there were like spikes of like, oh, like that's a good like a good scene or a good shot or whatever
Yeah.
it is. Like that is like true. Like there are some scenes and some shots where I was like, this is like, please God, more of this, and then there just like really wasn't.
Yeah. Well, let's. I already said we can go into spoilers, but now we'll call it specifically now, and
Okay.
I'll write down when so I can time code it. But yeah, like the stuff that I wish that they explored more was the dinosaurs like in the real world stuff. Like that was the promise of this movie, and that's where it is disappointing because that is a very fun premise to finally set up after all these years that they had teased and teased and teased, and then it just it's not really that. Like there's some of that in the beginning, but it
Like
just
the
doesn't.
first 20, it's like the first 10 minutes, and it's like they're flash scenes. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, here's this one. Oh, here are these ones. Like, oh, here, like, and they're just like, oh, dinosaurs are everywhere. Here we go. Like,
yeah.
it
But
would have been
then you're in a
cool.
reserve for the whole rest of the movie, and
Yeah.
it is what it
I
is.
mean, you're literally, it's like, you went back to the island in
Pretty much, you're still
everything
in an
about the island.
isolated situation. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, no, I agree with that. It definitely, like, they set up, all of the, like, even what Trevorov was saying, like, while before, why, when he came back on that, he was like, oh, we're gonna, like, it just wasn't, it was the same thing. It's the same thing as the last two movies, the same thing as Jurassic Park 3. There's a bigger dinosaur, there's a bad person who's in charge, and, like, I liked, what's his name? Something Campbell. Campbell
Campbell
Scott
Scott. Yeah,
as like the big like
Andrew
billionaire like
Garfield's
weird.
dad.
Yeah, it he was good
He was
as
fine.
like the eccentric billion. Like I was like I
It
like
did.
this
It
character.
didn't
I
need to
wish
be
like
Dodgson. There's no reason
yeah
for it to be Dodgson. That's one of those
yeah
things that you were talking about the callbacks where I'm just like, yeah, unnecessary callback. Doesn't need
yeah.
to be Dodgson whatsoever. It could just be a
It didn't even need to be like they could have just had a random suit senator. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it could
Yeah,
have like why is it in the Dolomites? Like why is it in Italy? Like there's just like and that like okay, so we're gonna take you to like exotic locations. I get it. Like why is the black
yeah,
market in Malta? Like how in 4 years how are there this many dinosaurs, this many places?
yeah. That I mean, that's my
That's really
suspend
hard.
my disbelief part where I'm like, I throw that part away.
Sure.
My issues with the plot stuff is the convoluted nature of like setting up why they have to go to Biosyn
Yeah.
when they could literally just be like, yo, Biosyn's doing something really weird, we need to go take care of it,
All yeah.
and they could just
All they did was
reach
the Ellie
out.
Sattler
Yeah,
stuff,
but
right? The
and then
locust stuff.
they could reach out to the legacy characters and just say, we need your help.
Yeah.
That's
Even
it.
having Malcolm like working for them and having him, it could have been like, oh, we're gonna go visit Malcolm, and then this other like they could have brought it together in a much better way. I
Yeah,
liked the locust thing. I liked the like corrupt. I mean that's core Jurassic Park is like
yeah.
company corrupt, like threatening whatever. All that stuff was fine. Like it
The
it
corporate espionage aspect. Yeah,
yeah, all like fine. Like get them into the location where there's dinosaurs and like let's go wild. Like the bigger dinosaur thing, like it's the third time they've done it, and I'm just like,
yeah.
come on, like come up with something. Like at least Fallen Kingdom, they were like, this is now a haunted, like a scary, like a house murderer,
And
like vibe,
and
and there's a
it
raptor,
still
and
wasn't even like a bigger dinosaur. They downsized for that, right? So it's
yeah,
like yeah.
yeah. And then like if I like oh my God, Mikey, the last scene, man, the last scene when they're like
The Lion King
the
thing.
dinosaurs fighting again, that like and like this, just Freddy Krueger.
I can't believe that like they put that Lion King shot in there, like the sunset shot.
I I don't hate like no, I'm not sorry. I'm sorry. I'm talking about like before they get in the helicopter when
Oh, okay, yeah.
the T-Rex and the Giga and I can't remember the long claw name.
It
So
was
my favorite
it was the
shot.
same ending as Jurassic World. We'll just say
Yeah.
that it was
I
the
like
same
listen,
three
I
point
like the
fight.
T-Rex coming around the corner and it's like the waterfall
I
with the
loved
perfect
that. Like
circle.
that
I
image
was like,
is
"Rah!" Like
so
that's a great one.
it's so stupid but so good. Like
Oh, it
that's the
hits.
kind of stupid that I
I
like. Yeah,
really liked when Freddy Krueger kills the
yeah.
deer and she's crawling away and she goes under the water and it like she's under the water and it like roars at her.
Which
That
is
shot
something
was
that
really
actually
great.
that was something that people were like making fun of because that was the first image that we got was just the front shot of her face with her
Yeah.
whole body underwater and you only see the legs behind her. It, I think it's a very
That,
striking image because of the
yeah.
colors in it, and in
Yeah.
Dolby that was like so green, it was nuts. But yeah, it's those flashes of really like fun, cool things that are just like surrounded by far too complicated of a plot that you can't like not that you
Yeah.
can't keep up with it, but like that it's just unnecessarily stuffed with stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I would call it yeah, bloated. This movie was bloated.
yeah,
And they took out literally I don't know if you follow Shea Serrano on Twitter, but he's a writer
I know who
and
he's yeah.
loves yeah. He wrote a whole chapter in a book called Movies and Other Things about Blue.
Hmm.
He's gonna burn some Universal buildings down when he finds out Blue's barely in this movie.
They
Like
fridged Blue.
how do you only have Blue in like the beginning and the end
The
of this?
true hero of this franchise at this point.
It's like taking Luke out of the fucking trilogy, man.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand. I was like,
Um,
wait, is Blue gonna show up in the Dolomites? Like I'm confused. Like how are you gonna jump
dug
the
her way
shark on
there.
that one? It
Um, yeah, it's
it
there
was
were
it was
definitely moments where I was just like, thankfully, like we talked about this last time. One of the things I was most excited about was Dilophosaurus coming back.
uh,
One of the Dilophosaur scenes starts out great, ends poorly, and then
with,
the
with Pratt.
yes, the way that
Yeah,
they get rid of the Dilophosaur and get away from the
yeah.
Dilophosaur is dumb. It's too quick and too dumb.
It's
And then the secondary Dilophosaur moment where that is literally a callback because it's Dodgson. It's a callback
yeah.
to
No, it's great.
Wayne Knight
I
going
like
down. That was really really good. I wish because it did start out so good the first time we see them. It didn't start out with just the throat grab, like the Roadhouse throat grab. Like that's a really
that was one of the
anticlimactic
moments the
way
woman
to
behind
end
me.
that moment.
That was one of the moments the woman behind me like cackled, and I was like, dude, like
Yeah.
you could have done anything. Anything like a triceratops could have hit it, a million things, and like
You could
I mean,
have
Chris Pratt
knowing that
was
there was more Dilophosaur stuff coming up. You could have had Bryce Dallas Howard throw a stick and have it actually go after the stick, and then they actually have their moment to kill somebody later.
yeah. It
Yeah,
like why didn't they spit at her at least? Like you could have done something, like anything. And I
have her
liked the
roll
build
dodge
up.
out of
Like
the way of it.
Hooting was great. I was like, oh, she is. I was literally like, oh my god, they're gonna kill off Bryce Dallas. I thought they were gonna kill her off. And then I literally was like that was a facepalm moment for me.
Yeah.
And
It's
like
that's the most frustrating
Grady in
part of this
general in this
movie
movie was
is when they set things up well and don't
it's just all flat.
finish. Yeah.
Yeah. Grady in general was like it gave me big um it just like the horse thing too, like this dude is a former Navy SEAL if I remember correctly. Like what he can
Yes.
fucking lasso dinosaurs now? Like what like every time somebody
But
put
see,
their hand out at a
that's the stuff that I
dinosaur.
was actually most excited. Well, that's
Oh
too
no, no.
much, yeah. But like
Like
the actual like the grazing
interaction.
dinosaurs and like trying to capture them to bring them somewhere safe is actually the stuff that I was most excited for. So that I thought was like beautifully shot and very much like shot like a Western, which was really cool. But it just got thrown away in favor of like this globe-trotting corporate espionage story.
They really like this is gonna get
This
memed.
too much of this. Yeah.
It's gonna get memed into like, and I like it when Alan Grant and Maisie do it. Like that, if that was like the second scene where they did
Yeah.
the hand thing, that would have been fine. But there were like it was like seven
Too many
times,
times. Too many
and it
times.
was like, we get it, we get it.
Yeah. It's
Like,
like they took the wrong lesson from people memeing it from the first Jurassic World movie. Yeah.
well, and part of me is like, this is just people at Universal being like, we need 12-year-old boys to start TikToks that just where they're just doing this to their dog or something, and the
No,
dog.
when they go to Universal Studios and do the blue encounter,
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
they need it for. Yeah.
It
Yeah. I
The other thing that bothered me was the like they're exterminating the locusts, and the locusts like break out and are just like, they just are on fire and start the whole place on fire
they
because,
needed a reason for fire.
yeah, and
That's
like
all that was.
it
It
I
was
was just like,
it
I was
was
like,
a
what?
cool image,
Oh,
but like
it looked great,
yeah, but it
but
was
I was like,
just
I was like,
it was dumb. It was
and it was
they
kind
could
of
have
a
started a
callback to the
fire an easier
plagues.
way.
It's a little bit of a callback to them saying like they talked about the 10 plagues a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's the firestorm. Okay, all right. It's also the locust. Cool. And then I was like, the whole place is in flames now. Like, what? Like, oh,
Well,
man.
the more subtle thing is that the way they got dinosaurs originally was frog DNA.
Yeah. Let's
Frogs
go. It's
coming
great.
down.
No,
Yeah.
like,
So
even like, if this had been like a 10 plagues movie, but dinosaurs, I would have been more into that than what we
yeah.
got. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt like they were like reaching in a lot of directions, and like, there wasn't like a congruent, like, okay, this is like the thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So just to counter the negative side that we're kind of focused on, what is some of the stuff that you came out like, huh? Like a little bit more on the upside. Like I know it's not a ton because you're not crazy high on the movie or anything, but like,
listen, man, like, every time I see a T-Rex on the screen, looks good.
mhm.
Like, even the first scene between the Giga and the T-Rex, I was like, oh, okay, I like this. Like, this is good. This is what happens in nature. You know what I mean? Like, the bigger predator shows up and the smaller one runs. And then like, I liked,
Also done in Jurassic Park 3 is the same way though. So
correct,
yeah,
correct. I liked the whole raptor chase scene was really good. Um,
that
I
was probably
like,
the best on average whole like whatever it was like 15 minutes was
yeah,
just that whole sequence.
I really like the cave scene.
Mhm.
Like, 'cause that's not a dinosaur I expected to see. I can't remember the name of it.
I only knew it was in there because I saw pictures from the premiere and they had a little statue of it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, that I mean, and like, that was cool. Like, different environment, something we hadn't. This is my point though. Like,
the
you
new
go into
stuff
these
is the cool
caves,
stuff. Yeah,
and it's like, oh, this is something we haven't seen before. What are we gonna see? And like, there's gonna be dinosaurs. Like, you see like the fin and all that stuff. And I
yeah.
was just like, at first I was like, if this is a Spinosaurus, I'm gonna like my like I'm gonna lose it. But
It's
like,
just
it wasn't. And that
a
was
baby Spinosaur because it's such a
great.
tight area.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, but it was that was good. I liked. I mean, listen, like, I liked. I kind of liked BD Wong, Henry Wu's like guilt.
Come around. Yeah,
Yeah, like, I don't like the redemption arc necessarily, but I do like that he was like, I'm just trying to fix this like problem.
I fucked up.
I actually, what, the thing I liked about probably the most is them explaining like Maisie's existence.
Mhm.
That she wasn't just a clone, that she was like genetically made to get rid of this, like, as like, I'm diabetic because my dad was diabetic. So
Yeah.
like, I was like, oh, this is like it kind of brought it back to the roots of Crichton, which is like the power of genetics is like, the power of God or whatever. And I was like, I like this. This is good. Like that's it's way better than there just being a random clone girl. They tied that in a bow that I was like, nice job, you know.
Yeah, I think that was them fixing a mistake rather than having it planned out too. So
Yeah.
it was done well enough that it did remedy that. Like I would have been totally fine if they were just like if they stuck to the she is just a clone rather than,
I mean, I wouldn't have
sort of half
cared.
and half, but yeah.
It made me like you know what I mean? Like, okay, there's a clone girl. I'm cool with that. But
Yeah.
that particular thing made me. I was like, oh, I was like, this is a nice way to wrap this in a bow, and like, I really liked the like old video of her mom, like
Yeah.
at Jurassic Park and stuff. Like all that stuff was okay. Um, yeah, there were
So,
shots. It's mostly shots. Like I liked
yeah.
I can't remember the name of the pterodactyl when it attacks the plane scene. That scene was cool. The raptor, the feathered raptor was cool, but that scene hurt my head a lot. Like swimming underwater and all that stuff. Like I was just like
Well, not even I
a lot of
listen.
shark jumping in
Listen,
this.
not even that. Chris Pratt would have been hypothermic like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's
So with the
that's
raptor, man, like
yeah.
even if they're warm blooded, like
But
that's frozen water.
so that's the stuff that I tend to overlook with this movie a little bit just because
Yeah,
it's um this is the most Fast and Furious this franchise has ever been. And so from the get-go of the sort of over the top stuff and the way that certain characters are extremely one-dimensional in this,
yeah,
at least the like the B characters, like the not the main cast, but like um basically any helper in this movie is very one note and doesn't
yeah,
really have a lot going on, and that just reminds me so much of Fast and the Furious of like that's every character in Fast and Furious.
yeah,
And everything is sort of turned up to 11, and I think they're trying to do that in a way that is like this is the one, this is the end of it all, it's all coming together, but it's like, it doesn't have to necessarily work that way. It can be just fun and dumb, but like the whole rest of the franchise hasn't attempted to only be dumb fun. So I think it's sort of hard to communicate that to the audience. And so for me, like going into it, as soon as I realized like, oh, they're going in that direction, that's where my sort of consumption laid. So I was just like, all right, I can turn my brain off and just like let it go. So for me, that's why a lot of the stuff that I think most people are like really gonna be hard on with this movie, I'm a little bit more like it's fine. Like I'm not that harsh with movies anyway. So for me, like something that's maybe more egregious in this movie is just like, that could have been done better.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How'd you feel about the trio, the original trio?
When they are all three together, I liked it. I didn't love the putting Ellie and Alan deep undercover stuff, like sneaking around. I didn't think that worked super well. And it just kind of acted like a way to get them to contact Maisie. But when all three of them are together, which doesn't come until far too late in the movie, notwithstanding them first meeting up with Ian,
Right.
but like when they're actually together while everything's going crazy. I think they are just as good as the first movie when they are all three together like that, but it's too few and far between. And so, there's the certain stuff that I'm just like, yeah, they maybe didn't have to tie a bow on stuff like Ellie and Alan's romance. Like they didn't
They
have
didn't.
to go that far.
I,
Like that's just crowd pleaser stuff that like it doesn't hurt, it doesn't help. Like
yeah.
whatever.
I did they ever show any affection in the first movie?
It's alluded to, but it's not
It's alluded
it's
to,
not
right?
explicit. Yeah.
Like yeah, like the only thing you really hear is when Malcolm's like, are you guys a thing? And he's like, like
Alan gets jealous. That's about as
I
far
didn't,
as it gets.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't need the kiss. I don't need that. Like I didn't. I'm glad they brought divorce into this movie somehow. Like you got to do it. It's a Spielberg joint. You got to bring it in
That's
somehow.
true. Yeah.
Um, it it definitely it
But
fell a little flat
to
for
be
me.
fair, they did mention Ian has 5 kids. So
Yeah,
yeah,
one with the like that was one of my that's actually one of my favorite lines in The Lost World is when he
yeah.
talks about how like he has one for each wife or something like that.
So that is
Or
something that I wish was, if they're gonna go heavy-handed with references and stuff, just make the pilot in this movie Kelly. Just do it. Just make it, like, why not?
yeah,
Just go for it. You're going for it with a lot of other stuff. You're having so many direct nods to the rest of the franchise visually too, like just shots that are straight out like Raptor coming at the screen and stuff. So just go for it. Just make her Kelly. It's fine.
yeah,
I would have been
yeah.
totally like, oh cool, she like learned how to fly. That's all I would have needed.
I mean, at that point, I would have been like, sure. That I mean, that's the prime candidate for someone who probably should have died in this movie. Like, like in my head, I'm like, oh, this is like every person who's introduced who is not one of like the six, like the original trio and the new trio. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, like I feel like only Beatty, like Henry Wu, gets injured at the very end, and he really just gets grazed or like hit with the tail or something. You know,
Which is
it.
funny too, because
I thought that,
he is one of the original kills. Like
yeah,
he is one of the first people to go in the book. So
yeah.
yeah.
The trio felt it. I just hope they got paid. Like
Oh,
because
they
like
100%
they
got.
I don't
Yeah.
want to say they found it, but like after seeing like I mean after Goldblum in Ragnarok, I was like, this dude's gonna come into this movie and throw heat, and he like
I mean,
felt like
to be fair, Goldblum for the last like 5 years has been just like
iconic shit.
totally. Well, not even that. Just like perfectly fine. Anytime Jurassic calls up and is like, "Hey, we need you for a minute," like
Yeah,
he goes for it because like he had the
oh, yeah,
cameo in Fallen Kingdom. He
which
is
is
in
good.
both Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Evolution video games as a voiceover. Like he just goes for it, which I'm like, you know what, man, you've earned it.
He was good, but he wasn't like he wasn't like I feel like this applies to the Lost World too. Like he wasn't like, and I don't know if this is just him being like, okay, this character has been through like trauma and is now changed, but like it wasn't quite the same. And they like tried to get a little more of that like rock star energy back, and like it just wasn't. I don't know. They all
Yeah,
kind of. I was
like
like, I was happy to see him.
the first movie, he is against everything.
Yeah,
Like he's totally just like, this is gonna go bad. This is gonna go bad. He's still that way in the Lost World, but he's a reluctant hero in that instead of being sidelined and injured. And then when he comes back in Fallen Kingdom, he is once again like, this is a bad idea. This is a bad idea. And then this one, he's like, no, I'm just gonna be a straight up like hero. I'm just gonna be like classic, straight middle of the road hero. He's not really like a even reluctant hero from the Lost World anymore. So it's
yeah,
a little bit of a weird jump because that you can see the transition from Jurassic Park to the Lost World where he is like
yeah. He's like, this
he's
is now a
messed
rescue
up. He
operation.
is
Yeah,
very much like, I do not want to go back there. I will only go back there because you brought Sarah there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, so it's yeah,
It's funny because like I'm gonna compare this to Star Wars because that's what we do. Uh, like when Han and Chewie pop on the screen in Force Awakens, that shit hit. When Luke comes back at the end, like that shit hit. Like I got goosebumps. Like there none of that. Like, and like
this
we knew
is
those things were happening.
this is a lot more Rise of Skywalker than the Force Awakens for sure.
Yeah, it very much was like I was like, oh great, like and they really like went for it, and it just didn't hit me in the same way that it did in Star Wars. And I don't know if it's like because of Star Wars, like where I was like, oh, like they're just doing this again. But for something that's so nostalgic for so many people, I question like, could they not have reintroduce these people better. I mean, Goldblum was, in the last one, but it was very much it was like a Senate hearing or something,
Yeah.
and he was like talking about, Ian Malcolm stuff. Like it was very on character,
Yeah.
and like I just felt. I mean, it all works, but it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be with those three. I guess is
It
what I'm
only
saying.
works because they are the people playing them. It's not
Yeah.
they were not written necessarily well. They
No.
are not really matching up fully. I would say Alan is the most like his original character.
Yeah.
I would say he's more like his original character in this than he is in Jurassic Park 3 even.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like top to bottom the way that they could have handled these legacy characters is definitely better. It's partly because of how convoluted they are introduced into this. Like I keep coming back to that plot line of like being really deep into the like the locust stuff is fun and like creepy at certain points because of
The first scene with the kids, the
it's
chickens.
great.
I forgot to mention that scene. That scene's great. It's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
a freaky big locust, and then all of a sudden they're swarming. Like, that's
Yeah,
good.
and then
That's
when
the
they
Jurassic Park.
yeah, and then when not necessarily when Alan and Ellie are caught in the room with the locust, but like when they come back and it's the like as kind of dumb as it is, but like the moment that they're on fire in the same
Yeah.
room with them, that is visually a super super cool moment. But like the storyline that involves them doesn't need to be as detailed. Like
Yeah.
it can be throwaway lines where we don't need to actually see them discussing it for like 5 minutes at a time, kind of thing. And it's yeah,
Too in on Monsanto for this movie.
yeah,
Like we get it. Like all you had to do is be like, hey, we brought these locusts back, and oh shit, they don't die, and they're like causing this plague. We got to do something. Oh, like even like the Maisie's DNA is the key plot line is fine, but like they definitely went a little too deep on it.
yeah,
Like and
and
like
that's
also there's like raptors running around. I'm sure like in like Allosauruses and like it's the
yeah,
locusts are the problem. You know what I mean?
right.
Like
But that's where like as cool as some of the imagery was with the locust stuff, I'm like, you could have cut that extra half hour off of this movie and just had them dealing with dinosaurs in the world. Like
it
that is the most frustrating thing about this movie to me is like there are clear things that they could just cut and it would have
it's long. That's
yeah,
the other thing we haven't talked about is like
2.5 hours.
the best thing about Jurassic Park 3 is it's
It's
like
90
96 minutes
minutes.
long.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's how
96 with credits.
every monster movie like should be
Yeah.
at most
Two
like
215 is
110
where you're
minutes.
pushing it. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's just no, I don't care. No one cares. And like as someone who loves this franchise, like I was like, yo, we're still going, like we're still doing it, you know?
Right.
And then I
Yeah.
just like man, I like the like here we go. It's the T-Rex versus the bigger thing again, like
Yeah.
for the fourth time. Like it was
And if
really
yeah,
disappointing.
if that wasn't done almost identically to the first Jurassic World movie, it would have hit a lot more. But the one that's in the Jurassic World movie, because it involves Blue and it involves the other raptors, like it's so
Like
much better.
we don't give a shit about Freddy Krueger. We've
Yeah.
seen one thing with Freddy Krueger.
It was and
Why? Like,
it was a very cool scene and a really creepy design for that dinosaur, like with the blind
yeah,
eye and everything. But like, yeah, I don't care about it returning like, at
yeah.
all.
And like I didn't need. They could have just left, and I would have like that would have hit harder for me than like we need one more dinosaur fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is sort of like an issue with this franchise is they always tend to add one too many things at the end of movies.
Yeah, that was like the San Diego scene. You know what
Exactly.
I mean
Like,
of this movie.
and that's like they clearly set that up from the get go when you see the first like interaction with the
Yeah,
T-Rex,
they were
but
like, there's
like
gotta be one dominant. Yeah,
yeah, so that's like it is what it is. But like you could have just, it would have been more successfully done, and if you just had those two dinosaurs fighting in a all out bar fight, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't need to do
Like the
the
Spinosaurus
two-pronged
and the
attack.
T-Rex and the third one. Like it would have been better if this movie would have been a better movie if when they first meet the T-Rex had killed the bigger one, and then you were like, oh shit, the T-Rex is back, and then like the T-Rex was around. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's like I
There,
liked they showed more dinosaurs. They didn't need to add like two different kinds of raptors.
well,
Like they're
we didn't need two apex predators is the big thing. Like
yeah.
I'm glad that we got that creepy scene with Bryce Dallas Howard in the pond,
Yeah.
but like, is it worth?
That would have been fine, even like
Yeah,
because it was, and then that's it. That we don't need to see that dinosaur again. Like
yeah. And it's well,
it,
it's funny too because like when they like Alan says the whole like it's the largest carnivore that's ever walked the earth or whatever, and it's like, I mean by volume and weight, sure, but like this other dinosaur that was going after Bryce Dallas Howard is just as tall. So
yeah,
like it's still like
not
in the eyes of the audience, it's still like
Superman.
just as big as the other one.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating, but like
It,
it's just one of those things where I'm like, I think folks are being hard on it for the wrong reasons. Like there's totally perfectly fine like criticisms about this movie that we've been discussing, but like
really delved into any reviews or anything yet. I mean, I know like the Rotten Tomato score is pretty bad right now from critics, but like it's also got like a 76%
it
from
has an A minus
fans.
cinema score for the audience. Audience
Yeah,
loves it.
we
So
don't care. We
yeah,
don't care.
but
Put the
it's one of
dinosaurs
those.
on the screen.
Well, that's the thing is it's just like I'm still happy to like watch one of these movies every few years because like whatever, dude. It's just it's dumb fun. But
Yeah,
I think, and we discussed about this last time. Like people have this expectation still 30 years later that it's going to be some groundbreaking fucking live up to the first movie experience. It's like, nah, man. It's never gonna come close to that. We
I
already
seriously
know
like
that.
like the only movies that have really pulled that off are the Fast movies, and it's only because they added The Rock and then they let.
That was also a bad franchise to start.
Yeah, no, it was
Yeah,
bad, and then all of a sudden it got good, and now it's
right.
bad again. But like, there's like a 3 or 4 movie span where you're like, oh, the Fast movie's coming out, I'm gonna go see it, and
Yeah.
then like unfortunately after Paul Walker died, like it fell off a cliff. But like the seventh one, like
I still liked 8. Um
I will
and
go see every
yeah,
Fast. To
7.
clarify for your audience, I will see every
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious movie in theater, like until they stop making
I
them.
haven't
Like
seen
of the
9. 9
fun.
came out too early for me to see it in the theater. So I still
Yeah,
haven't
that's
seen
the
it
first
yet.
movie I saw in the theater after the pandemic, baby.
So I still actually haven't seen it yet. But that was like I saw it was one of those things where I couldn't get people to go to those movies, so I had to like either go by myself or wait.
Yeah,
And so I didn't see one in theaters after the first one until 6.
I
And
saw all
then
of them.
and then 6, 7, 8 I saw in theaters because I was like,
Yeah,
screw you guys, I'm just going by myself.
yeah.
Like whatever.
Like 5, 6, 7 are, but like my point is like no movies are like like incredible and then like still good. Like like Star Wars Empire is better, right? Like the new trilogy, like I think The Last Jedi is better. You think The Last Jedi is better. Like The Godfather Part 2 is better. But The
Yeah.
Godfather is incredible. Like it's not like The Godfather sucked. It's
That's
just
one of the few times that and like I was having this discussion with my buddy Spencer when he was on for the Top Gun episode and like Top Gun Maverick, Halloween 2018, like
Halloween 20 is good.
obviously Godfather Part 2, like
Yeah,
there are very few times that a sequel will ever be as good or if better than the original, right? Like it's just that's how it is. And so I think people need to learn the lesson specifically this time. Like maybe this time people will learn the lesson that like you cannot go into these big blockbuster movies expecting it to be better than the last one anymore.
yeah.
You just
I
can't.
I agree. I mean, I'm ready for some like the more like the deeper we get into this stuff, the more I want like original content.
Right. Yeah.
Like
And that
I
is
just
an unfortunate side effect of the MCU effect.
yeah,
Like
and
everybody
like
wants to capture that, but like
yeah, everybody's trying to franchise, and like I get it, like especially when all like this movie isn't that good and it's gonna make $1 billion. Like there's no way it's not. Like
right.
so like I understand, I get it, but like it would be like I just want to see like I just need to go out and see like this movie. I just walked away from this movie like wow, I need to go watch like The Northman or something and like cleanse my palate with like even
Right.
though that's a story that like is one of the oldest stories in the book. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it at least it's a different telling and like a
Well,
different
it's
vision.
like what is it? 3,000 Years of Longing or whatever it is that's coming out, the George Miller movie that's based on like one of the oldest. Just it's a classic genie story, like based on uh the Arabian Nights stuff. Like it's still a new version of a thing as opposed to just
Yeah.
like more of something that we've gotten. But yeah, I feel you with that. Like you know me better than a lot of people even about like how dedicated I am to some of these like huge franchises. Marvel obviously being a huge
Yeah.
one, Star Wars being a massive one for me. It's a weird juxtaposition where I'm just like there was a time when I was just like in it no matter what, and it was probably like 10 years ago where I was just like I gotta start just like I can say I can differentiate between bad and not for me, and
Yeah.
I can differentiate between like great and not for me, and like it's this weird thing going on. It's like for this movie it's I'm caught like right in the middle of it because it is like it's not great, but I still had spikes of a good time.
Yeah.
And like what else was I going to do? Sit at home and play a video game.
Yeah.
Probably a
Like,
middle video game.
this
So it's
is
like I at least I had a good time for a couple hours out, like
it's
whatever.
the definition of like a I'm gonna go what like just go to the movie theater and watch a movie.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like
And
it very much was
the
like
more I go
it
see
made me think
movies
of
by
Blockbuster. Like
myself.
I'm gonna go rent. Oh, the new Jurassic Park just came out on
Yeah.
VHS. I'm gonna go rent it. Like you know
And
what I mean?
that's
Before,
for me like the vast majority of movies I see now, I see by myself, and that's my bar at this point. Is just like,
yeah,
is it worth killing a couple hours and just like letting my brain kind of go away for a little bit? Totally. I think this movie is perfect for that. Much like a Fast and the Furious movie, where I'm just like, I could not tell you what happens in any of those movies. I just
yeah.
know that they're
Oh, yeah.
fun to look at.
I know there's one with a very long airplane scene, and there's one with a
That's
heist in the
five, I
middle.
think. But that's like the only thing I genuinely know the plot line for is the first movie. They were stealing VHS players. Like
Yeah,
they were stealing. It's not even just VCRs. They were stealing combination TV VCRs.
yeah.
That is, and that's that was what 2001. Was that the
Three.
first movie? Yeah. So yeah.
Long time. But
Yeah.
yeah, man. Like, listen, if you like seeing dinosaurs do stuff to people on the big screen, like go see this movie. I would definitely recommend catching a matinee. Save yourself a couple bucks. But like, I, I'm interested. I'll rewatch it whenever it goes streaming and like
Yeah.
see if my opinion's a little better. I did not like get high or anything for this because I wanted to be cognizant when we had this conversation. So I'm curious if it'll be like one of those movies where like 5 years from now you just get really stoned and watch Jurassic World Dominion and have a great time. You know what I mean? Like
I
so
mean,
we'll
I don't
see.
even think that. I think for the most part, it's still the same that like Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and Jurassic World are the most value in like
Yeah,
revisiting. And this is just another one where you're like I said before, this is a if it's on, you'll watch it kind of movie.
yeah.
It's not one you're gonna like
Get home from
seek out
work and
again.
it's 45 minutes in on TNT and you're like, screw it, going for
Yeah,
the ride.
exactly.
Yeah,
And it's a bummer that it's that, but also like sometimes you just need those. That's fine. Like I'm not. I'm not against a movie in a big franchise not being
Perfect.
well, not even perfect, but like super memorable experience. Like
Yeah.
this is actually capturing what the first movie was supposed to capture, which was really just like fun time with dinosaurs. And then the
Yeah.
first movie struck lightning, and it was like it happened to work in a different way than that. But like this is doing what this franchise always technically should have been doing. We have an attachment to the first movie and the second
Yeah.
movie for some of us, but like the first movie particularly for most people. So it's everything is the line is at a different part than it would be if it was just a random movie, right?
Agree.
So, yeah. Okay, well I think that's it. I think we got everything.
I got no other notes. I mean, you know, I'm interested to see what my niece and nephew think.
Yeah,
I'm sure my nephew will. He's 15. I'm sure he's gonna love it.
yeah, perfect. All right.
There's dinosaurs killing people. He's gonna
Yeah,
be into it.
exactly. That's
man.
what this movie is going to end up being. Is I'm not going to revisit the movie necessarily when it comes out. I will watch certain scenes when they get put on YouTube.
Yeah.
I will watch the raptor motorcycle chase
Yeah.
a bunch of times on YouTube again. That's totally fine. But yeah, whatever. But yeah, that'll do it for this one. In the meantime, we have lots and lots of trailer reactions on the channel. We have plenty of other episodes. This is like 145, 146, somewhere in there. I have backlog stuff, so I can't remember off the top of my head stuff that doesn't come out for months. But yeah, so if you go back into the playlists on this channel, we got plenty of stuff for you to check out on there. Subscribe to the podcast on your audio feeds, then you can listen to us not at your computer. That's fine too. And until next time, bye.